I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in. Welcome everyone to another episode of Parent Like a Psychologist, and a very special welcome to my guest today, Sandrine Alexandre Hughes. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Leanne.
You are a busy lady. We were just talking offline about how you, well, I guess the purpose too of you coming on the show is to share with us some great resources that you have created for families to start to have conversations with their kids about e-safety and promoting caution in online interactions. But it's a way for parents to have these conversations with their kids through play, and we'll get into the games in a little bit. But you mentioned that you are a part-time lawyer and you've also a mum to 3 children. Is what kind of led you to create these resources?
Hearing about tragic stories, really. I started to hear about these stories pre-pandemic, which
Mm,
seems like a century ago now. And you and your listeners may or may not remember that while there is a lot of talk and awareness around online safety now, back just pre-pandemic, there wasn't. Almost
mm,
nobody, if you get yourself back in 2019, nobody was talking about it, or not many people. And it was a result of the pandemic when kids spent more time online, more people realized what was happening, and awareness started to spread. But I started to hear about tragic stories pre-pandemic when no one was talking about it, and I was really horrified by what I heard and
mm,
then what I read online. And I was shocked by the facts. And I was also shocked by the fact that I had no awareness of these things. And I started talking
mm,
to my friends, and they had no awareness either. And I
mm.
thought, I don't think this problem is going to go away. If anything, it's going to get worse because the online world was ever expanding. So during the pandemic, I started a little blog, Team
Mhm.
Together Online. And post pandemic, I created a card game. And the reason I created the card game was, for me, the obvious answer to how do you raise awareness? How do you remove parental anxiety from the equation? Because when I was
Mhm.
talking to my friends, I could sense a bit of awkwardness, anxiety around it. On the one hand, you want to protect your kids, but you don't want to freak them out about what's on there. So
Mm.
it was raise awareness, don't freak out the parents, remove the anxiety. How do you get the kids engaged and interested? And how do you connect everyone and everything together? And for me, a game was the obvious medium to do it. So that's how it
Yeah.
started. And yeah, raising awareness early and in an age appropriate way was really
Mm,
important.
mhm. Yeah, I think I love that approach. It aligns quite a lot with psychology. First of all, to use a game as a way to start a conversation with kids and teenagers as well. But also the idea of starting the conversations before things become challenging.
Yes.
Because as soon as there's stress involved in it, whether it's, like you said, um, parental anxiety or kids are stressed because they might think they're going to get into trouble, the conversation becomes so much harder to have.
Yes, and I thought if you have a card game, you're offline because we all spend
Yeah.
too much time online, no matter how hard we try to have this online offline balance. And otherwise, it's a good idea to do it around the table to have this practical thing in your hands to show you the
Hmm.
game here. It's called All the Likes. So I can show you
Yeah.
a video. It's very cute. I'll get back to it in a moment. But yeah, I thought if you start in a happy environment and early, it becomes a natural conversation, and you are more likely as the kids grow up and become tweens and teens to keep the
Hmm.
chat going. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to get into the card game soon because I've I love the picture, and I'll share some graphics of it
Yeah.
on Instagram and that kind of thing as well. Yeah, there it is. um,
Yes, yes.
but the types of things we're talking about in the safety behaviors and or things that might be unsafe is worth talking about first. And so I guess it sounds like your concerns coming through the mental health impacts and sometimes in worst cases suicide that's related to kids having these really difficult interactions
Yeah.
online. But what through your reading and research, what were some of the types of unsafe behaviors or interactions that you read about?
There was a large range, and I was shocked. And
Mm,
I won't go through the 13 of them, but through my research, I I listed 13 different categories or main type of dangers, and I
mm,
organized the game cards around those. And some of the principal ones I would say is inappropriate content,
mm-hmm,
watching, seeing inappropriate content, being asked for inappropriate content,
right.
being given inappropriate content. There's bullying, there's
Mm-hmm,
scammers, there's addiction or
mm,
overuse. I know that some people don't like to use the term addiction. Technically, it's
mm,
not an addiction, but we all know what we're talking about, being
yeah.
over dependent on the devices. So these are the main ones. And yeah,
Mm,
and bullying and being aware that, any kids can be the victim or the perpetrator of online
mm,
bullying. So yeah, these are the main ones.
yeah. I think most of my podcast, I guess, is aimed at parents with neurodivergent kids. And I think um, it's still I don't know if it's more difficult for those parents to manage in terms of online behaviors, but in some ways it's different. So kids might spend more time online because that's an easier way for them to
Mhm.
connect and find people similar to them. But at the same time, lots of neurodivergent kids have vulnerabilities about, um, perhaps not recognizing when they might be taken advantage of and that kind of thing. So it's especially important for this group of parents, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And actually, I was told by a mom who has a neurodivergent son that she liked the cards because they're quite simple,
Mm, hmm.
and I designed them in a way that they are quite simple, so you can adapt your conversation depending
Mm,
on your kid and their circumstances and their age.
hmm.
So, as you said, we'll get into the game, and I describe some cards, but the way you're going to describe the explain the card, be kind with your words, for example. You're not
Yeah.
going to explain it in the same way to a 6-year-old and to a 10-year-old. There's a card with
Mm,
a little unicorn, which says it's a cute little unicorn with a rainbow, stars and stuff, and it says, "Is it true for real?" And
right.
that actually introduces the idea of media literacy. Check your sources. Not everything you see online is true. Some of it is true, some of it isn't. And same,
Yeah.
it's a prompt for the conversation, and you're not
Mm,
going to have it in the same way depending on the kid you're talking to. But I'd like to say, Adia said that it's more than prompts. It's an actual card game with it's a proper game that's fun and that
yeah.
you play. So we'll get into this later. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I
hopefully
think
it's
let's,
it's helpful to everyone. Sorry. Yeah, hopefully
yeah.
it's helpful to, everybody.
Yeah. I think for sure. Maybe let's get into it now. So,
Sure.
tell me a little bit about, it's the website is teamtogetheronline.com.
That's right.
Um, and these are what you've got on there, the only card games for online well-being and through making offline connections, which is a great thing. So your game there, all the likes, is
Mhm.
for younger kids.
Yes.
Tell us about that one.
So all the likes, I designed it for kids age 6 to 12, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And also depending on your kids, you have some 5.5 years old who are really, really switched on. But roughly
Mm-hmm.
it's six to 10. They need to be able to to read. And so the game is organized around the concept of a game of snap.
Right.
So pretty simple to play. Game of snap, and there are 13 different categories of snap card, and each snap card is is basically displaying a very cute design with a safety tip. So
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this cute one, the pink one with a heart which says "Be kind with your words." So the kids love that the designs are really cute.
Yeah.
And this one, there's a spider and it says "Block strangers." It looks pretty
Mm-hmm.
scary, but not too
Yeah.
scary. Like it's fake
Yeah.
scary, like it's kid scary. You don't, as
Yes.
I said, I want some very symbolic designs which kids will remember. That's the idea.
Yeah. Yep.
That through the repeat, they will learn through the repetition of the snap cards coming on the table over and over again until they snap the pile. So the
Yeah.
idea is to play through the visual memory and the repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And, and in addition to the 13 different types of snap cards covering those 13 topics, I created some action cards, which are
Mm-hmm.
like silly and fun action cards, which have nothing to do with online safety, just
Okay.
kids stuff that kids love. And it's really to spice up the game and remind them it's a game, it's a joyful environment. So there is this one with with
Mm-hmm.
a mouth that says slow mo. So if this action card comes up, you have to act and speak in slow motion until your next turn.
Right.
So
Okay.
things like that. So there's also 10 or 12 different action cards to spice up the game. And you can see how you can adapt your explanation about online
Mm,
safety depending on the age of the kids. So you can play without even mentioning online safety if you want to. You
mm,
can just play the snap game, the action cards, and that still leaves an imprint in their memory for the future. But it's also a
mm,
way to start the conversation before or after the game. You can just put out a card and start talking about it. But the beauty of it, I didn't even realize when I started to design the game, is that most of the time, you don't need to start the conversation. The kids will ask questions.
mm,
Oh, what
mhm.
does this mean? What is this card about? And you can
Yeah.
pause the game and chat and give a very simple explanation or develop later at the end of the game. And I was, well, that's great because if kids are asking questions, it means that they're engaged and they're more
Yes.
likely to remember the answer. So it's a real
Yeah.
connection. It's not a lecture.
Mhm. And I think one of the things I find parents ask a lot is that they don't know what's the right level of information to give their kids. Um, and so I think this game is a great way because the information is there in the game, but then you can be guided by the questions your children ask, what they want to know about. And if you give a simple answer and they say, "Oh, okay, your turn," then you can move on. Whereas if they ask more and more questions, you know they want more information, so you can have a deeper conversation.
Yes, and every time you play, you can get a bit deeper. That's
Yeah.
also a possibility for the parents to give a short answer the first time around and then have time as a parent to reflect about it. Oh, next time I'm going to give a bit more information. And you can
Mhm.
ask the kid the question again, or you can also you can parents love the fact that it's practical and they've got something tangible in their hands and you can just pick up the card and that helps and say, oh, remember that card? And then
Mm,
you can start reopen the dialogue again. And the fact that it's an object on your shelf or amongst your collection of card games and board games really helps because as the e-safety commissioner's campaign said a few years ago, chat early and chat often. It's not a
mhm.
one-off conversation.
Yeah,
And to
that's right.
have a visual reminder to play it every now and then on a regular basis is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And so is that where so chat early and chat often and keep continuing with those conversations? Is that where your idea for the second game came through? That's you have one smoke, mirrors, and filters as well?
Yes, so this one was designed with adults and older teenagers in mind. So it's
Mhm.
15 plus. And the idea was the, the core of the idea is how do you get teenagers to talk, older teenagers?
Mm,
And if
Mm-hmm.
they don't talk with you, or not much with you, they can talk more with their peers if you give them
Yes.
a medium to do it as well. And as I designed the game, because I love conversation card games, I show
Mm.
you smoke, mirrors, and filters. It's a black and
Mm-hmm.
white box. As I designed the game, because I love conversation card games, I thought this is great for adults. I mean, if late
Mm.
teenagers are playing it, it's 15 plus, it's adults as well. And
Yeah.
as I designed the game, I thought, how would I play it if I had friends? What could we chat about to make it fun? And so the game is designed to prompt conversations about our online habits. It
Mm-hmm.
covers everything from shopping to how many selfies do you reckon you take, or what do you do with the selfies you take? What filter is your favorite filter? What was
Mm-hmm.
your first email address, or uh,
Mm-hmm.
the best or silliest handle you had on socials? And have you
Mm-hmm.
ever received, for example, an email that was not meant to you? And it
Yeah.
enables everybody to open up and talk
Mm-hmm.
about things we experience online, but we don't necessarily share it. I wanted to bridge the gap between what we experience online, be it positive or negative, and what we live in the physical world, because I realize we don't really often connect the two. And
Mm-hmm.
you can play the game in a very casual, chill way, and that's also a competitive mode. You can score points depending on how you want to
Okay.
play. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
automatically thought of the child who would want to score points in my family and be competitive. Um, yeah, but what I love too is that um, it reflects this change too from when kids are small and we're giving them advice to then when kids are teenagers and it becomes much more um, a coaching conversation, or we're not telling them what to do anymore as parents. Ideally, that's the best way it works, and we're starting to also share our experiences and what we've learned and have a more open conversation about it.
Yes.
um
Yes, you can play it
yeah.
as a family around the table, and it's possible that your 15, 16-year-old is not going to give you the same level of details in their answers that they would give their friends, but at least
Yes.
they started to open up and they know they can play it with their friends.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I played it with my own friends on a number of occasions, and always have a great time, and we share great stories, and you can keep them light and fun, and you can also go deeper if you want to. So it's really open to
Mm,
the players.
yep. Yeah. I think also that idea of chat often with our friends is a good thing as well. It's support that we need for things in our own life. um, Technology, I think, is so hard for our kids because it's hard for us as adults as well.
Yes, and I do believe in the importance of role modeling. So if you
Mm,
play these games with the kids, it shows that you're involved in the process yourself as well.
yeah, that's right. Yep. Um, I think so. We've talked about some of the types of behaviors and things that the card game is designed to start conversations about and how it works, and what it's a really interesting time to be having this conversation given that the government's just introduced the new social media legislation and rules. And one of the points that I think that you wanted to raise too was the difference between how parents can have these conversations and what we teach kids at school as well. How do you see the difference there?
What what I think in relation to the parents versus school, or parents and school, um, in general, is that I think it's not just the parents' responsibility or just the school responsibility. I think it's a shared responsibility,
Mm,
because um, the online world is everywhere, screens are everywhere. So I feel there should be a partnership and an alignment between society in general, school, and the parents, and we win this together. We have
mm,
to be coherent, because the kids can be in a situation when they hear one thing at school and a different message at home. So
mm,
hopefully everybody plays their part.
mm. That actually makes me think too about how um, it's kind of the part of the kids in their peer group and friend group to have these conversations as well. Like you mentioned before, that friends might play it together. And I know I've heard my son before when he's playing games with his friends and online, and someone might say something, and I've heard him say before, like, "That's not cool. Don't That's not a cool thing to say." And
Mm.
it takes, I guess, it takes a bit of bravery and good friendship skills to be able to say that. But, if
Yeah.
teens are having these conversations together, that's how they can then, support each other through it as well.
Yes, and hopefully there are more and more kids who feel empowered to do that,
Mm,
and it should be the norm. If it's not already, it
yeah.
should be. So hopefully things are changing for the best, and yeah, kids talk, and kids are upstanders and they play cards. The other day, I was working on my laptop from a cafe because I had an hour and a half between two things, and there was a group of teenagers next to me. They
Hmm.
had their phones on the table. Obviously, they had phones, but they were playing a card game for over an hour. And I thought,
Right.
well, that's great. Not all
Yeah.
hope is lost, and I refuse to be feel powerless and lose hope. So I saw that, and I was, yeah, maybe the tide is turning, and that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you have a pack of smoke mirrors and filters that you could just hand out?
Actually, I wish I had. I should always have a pack in my bag. Lesson learned.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
actually, the whole story, since you're asking, the whole story is I went to see them and I said, "Excuse me, I've
yeah.
got I've got this business, and I'm going to ask you a question if you don't mind. It's a bit of a market research. What do you think of
Mm,
this game? Do you play
mhm.
conversation card games, and do you think you'd play it?" And they said, yeah. Like the girls said, yes, yes. There were a boy and two girls. I think the boy was
Yeah,
a bit less engaged, very lovely, lovely guy, but less engaged with the girls. Were like, yeah, yeah, no, yeah.
yeah,
So
excellent. That's
yeah,
very
so
cool. I love that
but
you went over to talk to them about it. That's cool.
and then I thanked them, and I was okay. Maybe I don't know what they're gonna think. Maybe they're gonna think I'm a weird old lady, but I'm like, I'm just doing my market research, kids, and thank you for your input.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you'll be in your 40s one day as well.
Yeah,
But they were
that's
lovely.
right.
Then
That's
you'll
right.
understand. In case you don't now, but I think they did, and they were lovely.
Yeah, I think what's changing too is there is a lot more open communication about things at school. That's not just about education. It's about things like mental health and relationships and
Yes,
online safety. And
yes.
um, I think that's actually, it's a really great thing because the level of conversations teenagers can have about things like that is so much better than it used to be.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
That's right, absolutely. Um, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on was, have you heard many stories about the impact of the social media ban and that kind of thing on families?
I feel that depending on what was happening in any given family, the outcome and the position of the family is very different. So
Mm, mhm,
and I feel that some people will tell you that they feel it's a good thing and it's not a polarizing topic, but then you hear other families saying, "Oh, my kids really need this to feel connected," and it's for us parents to decide whether our kids should be on social media or not. So I feel like there's a mixed response,
yeah.
but I feel, or I hope, I don't know because I don't feel neutral on the topic. I hope that overall families are happy
Mm,
because they realized that social media wasn't designed for kids, and it does
mm,
help. There's this sort of pressure and peer pressure, and the ban does help a lot of parents in saying, no, that's the law.
mm,
I'm a good citizen. I am going to comply with the law. You're not on socials. A lot of
mm,
families say that. Other families would say, like, my kids were not on social, and I had no intention to give them a smartphone anyway. And
mm,
so it's a complex topic, and my position is clear. My position is socials were not designed for kids. That
mm,
that's a reality I think everybody can agree on.
mm,
And there's anyone and everyone online. And what I love to say is, would you just go out and round up random people? That would include scammers and criminals and bullies, and invite them to your house, put them in
mm,
random rooms, and then
Mm,
tell your kid, okay, just go in any room you like and have a chat with these
mhm.
people, because that's what happens online. So no one would
Yeah.
do that. And I feel it was a good idea to switch off that tap as an
Mm,
emergency measure. But I think it does raise deeper questions,
mm,
um, in relation to how do we make kids feel connected and seen and heard and experience the world more offline? You
mm,
know, for those kids who think they're going to suffer from not being online, that means
mm,
there's something that is missing offline. And
mm,
how,
mhm,
as a society at large, we need to ask ourselves those questions, and that touches upon many different areas of society, I think. And
mm,
then there's the online. Of course, it's a new generation, it's the 21st century. So is it possible to have some sort of online connection for kids, that is safe and promotes a mindful use of the internet? You
mm,
know, who's going to design that? Is that even possible? Who's got good motivations to do that? So I think the ban was necessary, but obviously it brings up a lot of very deep and important questions.
mm. Yeah, I see that too, and I think it's perhaps, with the introduction of any new way of doing things, there will be a group of kids who are already using it, who are in this transition period now,
Mm.
whereas the kids coming through will just know that's the reality of it. Um, and so it for the kids, yeah, it's an adjustment period for the kids who were already
Yes,
using it.
yeah,
But
it is.
to what it goes back to the idea you were saying before about how it's not just parents' responsibility, it's not just schools, it's everybody's. And I think the idea really is to try to move us as society towards a bit of a, well, firstly, the conversation, but then also a decision about what do we think is okay and what's not okay, and how we're going to do it as a society, taking one
Exactly.
approach forward.
Yeah, so I like to be optimistic and think there's a lot of potential for solutions and creative solutions, and
Mm,
for society to change for the better.
mm. I see a lot of positive change in teenagers too, in terms of, and young people, like into their 20s as well, where I think, levels of um, drinking or binge drinking are lower, smoking levels can be lower as
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
And so, with good evidence based information through parents and schools, teenagers are making good decisions. Um, it's just about how do we have those conversations in an engaging and interesting way so that kids want to have them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that brings us right round to your games.
Yes.
I've got to say though, sorry,
No, I was just going to
I
say, yeah,
interrupted.
there was the whole point. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to say before we finish, though, that one thing I love on your website as well. So I'll put the link in the notes as to where you can get the games from. The other thing you have on there is a cap that says, I'm your favorite notification. I really liked that. It spoke to my sense of humor. And the mugs that say that as well. Or, oh, that's right. Today I'll make you forget to check your phone. That's such a cool line. I think lots of
Thank
people
you.
could relate to that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I try to always sprinkle a bit of humor around the products and the message, and that's what the games are about as well. So I started to develop a bit of merch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. I
Thank
love
you.
it. I think it might be my new office mug, I think.
I've got one in the kitchen. Yeah.
Do you? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's such an important topic, and but the games are such a fun and interesting way that kids can start these conversations and engage in them really positively. So it was a fantastic idea. I really, yeah, very much support it and hope that they take off and become very popular.
Thank you so much, Leanne. And it was great chatting with you and having your insights as well. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Tran Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.